Hey, it's Alex from Motoroso.com, your dedicated auto parts marketplace. A couple weeks back, we did a product spotlight video on the QA1 Carbon Fiber Driveshaft. Well, today we're in our studio and we've got our S550 Mustang with 5.0 Coyotes in it and a manual transmission. And we're gonna show you how to install that QA1 Carbon Fiber Driveshaft, part number JJ21212. Now that'll handle 1,500 horsepower and it'll set you back about $1,500. You can shop for that and hundreds of thousands of other top name brand products in the automotive aftermarket, sold by trusted vendors at great prices, and the shipping is always free with no minimum at Motoroso.com. Let's dig in. All right, before we get started, let's just take a quick look at the steps necessary to do the install. Now first, we've got a lift. We're really lucky, but that's so that we can give you really good clean shots. You can definitely do this installation in your driveway with jack stands. Just make sure you get the car up high enough so you're not struggling with everything. First, you're gonna drop your exhaust system down from the cat back to the mufflers. Then you're gonna take out your OEM drive shaft by disconnecting at the differential, then at the input shaft, and then at the carrier bearing and drop the whole thing down. Next, you'll grab your new drive shaft and it'll go back in the same way the first one came out, except we don't have a carrier bearing. Now this is nice and light. I'm still gonna need a second set of hands so I don't accidentally drop it. And the stock one's gonna be about 60% heavier, so definitely gonna want a second set of hands on that. Let's go ahead and get dirty. Tools you're gonna need for this installation include a 10, 13, 14, 15, and 18 millimeter sockets, a 6-inch extension, and a ratchet to match those sockets. Grab an 8 and a 10 millimeter Allen wrench, a breaker bar for the tough bolts, and a torque wrench to put it all back together. We're gonna need the exhaust out of the way, so first we're gonna disconnect the 4 15 millimeter bolts at the catalytic converters without fully removing them. Moving back, now we're unbolting the muffler hangers. There's 4 13 millimeter bolts, 2 on each muffler, and then simply unhook the hangers from their mounting points on the chassis. And all the way at the back, remove the 2 13 millimeter bolts holding the exhaust up on the cross member and disconnect the exhaust hangers. Now you're ready to pull the exhaust system out, but this is very heavy and bulky, so make sure you get a second set of hands to help move everything out of the way. Now you're ready to begin removing bolts from the drive shaft on the differential side. There's 6 bolts. We recommend loosening them all, rotating the drive shaft as needed by rotating the wheel. Now don't remove all the bolts, we recommend removing about half of them. We'll remove the rest when the drive shaft is ready to come out. Now remove all three 18mm bolts from the side of the drive shaft that connects to the rear of the transmission at the output shaft. You may need to rotate the drive shaft by rotating the wheels, and that's why we left the 3 bolts in at the differential end. With your transmission side fully disconnected, now you can remove the rest of the bolts on the differential end. And the last step in removing the OEM drive shaft is to remove the two 15mm bolts that are holding the carrier bearing from the center of the vehicle, and then being careful not to drop this on yourself. You may want another set of hands because it is fairly heavy. Then put that old drive shaft in a safe place. Before installing the new drive shaft, we need to install the new drive shaft adapter. And the first thing you want to do is clean the mating surfaces to make sure that there's no debris. Prep the bolts for the adapter by applying blue Threadlocker. When installing the drive shaft adapter, make sure to thread the bolts in and then tighten them evenly in a star pattern, and then torque each bolt down to 47 foot-pounds of torque. Now put blue Threadlocker on the hardware for the differential side of the drive shaft. Start by sliding the new drive shaft onto the output shaft of the transmission. Back on the differential side, you'll want to install one of the old bolts just to hold the new drive shaft in place. Put blue Threadlocker on the new hardware for the transmission side of the drive shaft. Now line up the holes and install the new hardware on the transmission side. You will need to rotate the drive shaft in order to get that last bolt in. With all those bolts in, get them snug down, but don't tighten them to any torque spec just yet. Back over on the differential side, put in 2 more of the old bolts and just snug them down to hold the drive shaft steady. With everything lined up properly, you're now ready to torque down those 10mm Allen bolts on the transmission side to 85 foot-pounds. Now remove those old bolts on the differential side and rotate the drive shaft until the color-matched alignment marks are lined up properly on the differential adapter. Making sure that those colors are lined up properly, go ahead and install your new differential side hardware and torque down to 47 foot-pounds. Make sure you tighten those down evenly in a star pattern. Alright, your drive shaft is officially installed and ready to go. Now grab a second set of hands and lift and position your exhaust system back into place. First installing and tightening the clamps at the cats. Then realign the exhaust hangers into the mounting brackets and tighten those 13mm bolts. And lastly, realign the muffler hangers and reinstall the 4 13mm bolts into their proper mounting holes. And congratulations, you've finished installing your new drive shaft. All right, that wraps up our installation of a carbon fiber drive shaft on our S550 Mustang. We hope you found the video helpful, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for all of our future videos. Make sure you shop for all your parts and accessories at Motoroso.com, where you can browse hundreds of thousands of the top name brand products sold by trusted vendors at great prices, and the shipping is always free with no minimum. Thanks for watching.